this schedule really shapes up for a playoff run with a 12-team playoff.
Areas that, you need to get from experience, which is just, hey, I need to make quicker decisions.
How do you define success for this team?
National championship.
All right, y'all, a little bonus for you here. Because Jackson does an awesome job covering the G5, and we like to show the G5 as much love as we possibly can, I do want to get a little rundown of San Jose and Fresno, since he goes up and down the California coast to cover these guys. Although Fresno's not real coasty, but let's start with San Jose, a team that I know from your Stanford episode that you're really high on. Who are the studs we need to know on San Jose this year? What do we like about this team?
Yeah, well, obviously Walker E gets back at quarterback, and in this day and age, to have a returning starter at quarterback's a big deal. He didn't necessarily have big numbers last year because he took over midway, but in this offense, he should have wild numbers this season. And they lose their star receivers, but they brought in some pretty big ones in the portal, and those are going to be the big names to know here. Leland Smith from Purdue is a guy that's going to be kind of like what Justin Lockhart was last year for this offense. And Danny Scudero from Sac State is potentially the Nick Nash heir, even though he's about 5 inches shorter. He's probably about 0.2 or 3 seconds faster in the 40. So that's going to change this dynamic quite a bit. And they're going to air it out. There's going to be other names at receiver, but those two, plus 1,000 yards easy in this spread and shred offense.
Is there a back who we think is worth following on this team?
There's two that are, Floyd Chalk and Lamar Radcliffe are both back. Chalk carried the load for most of last year, and Radcliffe was kind of a guy that normally doesn't end up at San Jose State and got some action as a true freshman, especially the last couple of weeks. So, there's a chance that he could take over and be the guy, but I would expect it to be a little bit of a committee there.
Last year, they did not play a whole lot of defense at San Jose. Had some games where they allowed, in the 40s, but they had a couple decent games. Like their UNLV game was respectable on defense. Anybody that stands out on defense for this year? Anybody we think could make a big leap?
Well, they kept Jordan Pollard at inside linebacker, which is just you got a guy like that at San Jose State. It's hard to imagine that they stay, and he did it. And you kind of watched every one of these portal waves if he was going to do it or not, and he didn't. So that's huge for this team. They got to replace basically the whole cornerback unit, most of the safeties. Jalen Applett-Williams is a safety who's been there for a long time and has kind of battled. Well, he was the reserve, and then he battled some injuries, and now he's really taken that leap. He's going to be a focal point on defense. And a couple of D linemen they're counting on, Nafafaga at nose. The D line's not probably across the board. D line, cornerback, safety. They probably don't have some of the top talent they had last year, but they're a lot deeper than they were last year.
Nice. All right, let's switch on over to Fresno and say hi to the Barkboard. Obviously, those guys. I love that. Like, you guys got a great community there, man. It's fun. What are we thinking on Fresno this year?
Yeah, Fresno is a tough one to call because there's so much changing. The offense is doing a whole 180 from spreading it out to being a real smash mouth pro style offense. It's going to probably look a lot like some of the Pat Hill years, minus a David Carr or something like that throwing the ball. So, and then you look at the schedule. You're so used to Fresno State where you probably count 4 or 5 easy wins and maybe 1-2 losses, and your season's kind of defined by a couple of games. But between not really knowing what to expect from Fresno State and the parity in the Mountain West, you circle Southern, the FCS opponent, as a win, and the other 11 games could pretty much. You can make an argument that they go either way. So it's really going to come down to how this team pulls out close games, which they were terrible at last year. But with the change of philosophy, that could very well be their strong point this year.
Quarterback wise, who's gonna be throwing it?
Yeah, EJ Warner and Joshua Wood came out on top of the spring, and then Wood transferred off to Idaho. They bring in Carson Conklin from Sac State, who started for the Hornets last year. So now you're looking at probably a Warner-Conklin competition. In this offense, they're going to run the ball so much that you don't need a guy that is going to have to throw for 40 or 50 times or get to 400 yards. It's going to be a very basic, I think, for the quarterback position. So I mean, between those two guys, Jaden Mandel's a local also who is played in the bowl game and is pushing as well. So, but probably you're expecting Warner, who is the son of Kurt Warner, to probably, with his one grad transfer year, kind of lead the way here and get things rolling for Coach Ince.
Since they are going more smash mouth, who are we looking for at running back?
Yeah, Bryson Donaldson is a name people need to know if they don't know it already. True freshman, insane numbers, local. Last out of high school had crazy numbers. Came in as a local, hired 3-star recruit, and you could see the flashes, and just everyone was waiting for him to really get his shot. And finally, they let him loose the last couple of weeks. Had a couple of big games, or at least relatively was the focal point of the offense, and that was in a scheme that wasn't very running back friendly. So he's going to be the guy. And I mean, no one compares to Ashton Jeanty, but he's Jeanty-ish. He's a guy that wants to be at Fresno State, and he's local and might stay there longer than anyone else with that type of talent would. And he's just a real physical, mature, with speed type of guy. So they're going to feed it to him a lot. And there's probably going to be another 15 to 20 carries to go after him if this offense does what they want to do. Elijah Gilliam is back, and Rayshawn Luke from Arizona, probably going to be that change of pace for the Dogs.
I know they're going to throw it a lot less, but just in case that when they do throw it, all the targets go to one guy, who has the potential to be that guy?
And that very well may be the case. Josh Davis is the offensive coordinator, and he comes from South Dakota. I was just looking at their stats. There was like one guy who had all the targets and a couple others that caught like 10 to 15 passes. But the one guy they bring back, I mean, they had like seven deep receiver room, and only one of them's back, Josiah Freeman, 6'3", real long. It's just injuries have been his situation the last couple of years. So if he stays healthy, he is going to make some highlights and haul in some impressive catches and put up those numbers.
Awesome, man. Well, I really, really appreciate this. It's been so much fun. I will be following your coverage all year. And Jackson, thanks for the time, man.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.